Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. This time we'll be talking about the glorious gift banner. You know, it feels a bit weird not to cover 5 units in one of these videos, considering all of the non-seasonal banner we've gotten lately. I mean, I'm not complaining, it makes it easier on me, but it does feel kind of strange. Maybe they could just do a 5th unit that would be a seasonal that disappears with the banner as well, but it would be like a seasonal that would just be there during Christmas banner, like on Christmas banners. Oh well, food for thought, I guess. Anyway, let's start with the banner. This banner has some winners and some losers, but first, let's start with the losers. As per usual, I'll be going from worst to best. And Zephiel is, well, the worst of the bunch. Let's be completely honest here. I don't think anyone was expecting me to just not put him there. The fact of the matter is, it just doesn't really have anything. That's the main problem that he has, because min-maxed armored unit with a good amount of def in the res, and good attack, but bad speed, are not exactly new. It's just that considering that he's a seasonal, he has a lot of competition. And some of them are not even seasonal. So as a result, since he has basically nothing to really, show off, then he kind of falls in the problem of, wait, but why would you invest in this unit, There are units also, like Avil, that might be, demoted. And if Avil demotes, that will just make it even dumber to work on this type of unit. Shame, but it is what it is. As far as this kid goes, his weapon is kind of interesting. Allowing him to heal 5 HP every hit is kind of interesting. It's Soul Lens, but a bit nerfed. And inheritable. I can just feel Forsyth fan just fuming in their chair, but the fact is, it's a decent weapon. It's nothing game-breaking, and I don't see a lot of people that would actually use this. In fact, even Zephiel here would not really be a good user of it, unless he always consistently get doubled. And even then... it's iffy. So, what else does he have? Vengeful Fighter and Glacies. Wow, color me surprised. Never seen those skills before. Def Res Gap is... well, I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's basically a worse opening skill. Yes, it buffs 2 stats, but it requires you to have 2 stats together hit a certain threshold. It can be very iffy and overall just is hard to really, buff the right unit with. Because a lot of cases, if you get hit by a chill, for example, the unit that gets buffed by Def Res Gap might be a completely different one. And then the skill becomes inconsistent as a result. Whereas, if it's just the highest def or res, you can just focus on that stat alone. But oh well, it is in general not exactly a skill worth killing a seasonal over anyway. Anyway, let's talk about comparison, shall we? So, yeah, all of these units have about the same BST. In fact, I'd say Murray and Idun essentially have 1 more point, since they don't rely on getting a super boon to hit the 180 bin. So already there, you're off to a bad start. But to add insult to injury, so if you compare Mur to Zephiel, you have the same attack. He has 2 more HP at the cost of 2 def. Okay. And he has 4 more res at the cost of 4 speed. Okay. Yeah. This is basically the extent of everything he's got. Mur actually has 179 BST just like him, but at the end of the day, Mur's stat line is a bit like... how can I put this? Mur's def and HP is better distributed, but her speed and res are worsely distributed. But see, here's the thing, right? If it was only stats, it would just come down to what you like the most. In fact, you can actually make a good case that Zephiel is slightly better than Mur, but then you have to take in consideration the weapon. Mur's weapon is a pref. So not only does she score better in arena because of it, that pref is a good weapon. That pref is actually one of the best armored pref as far as synergy goes with armored skill. So there's two things you can do with that pref. You can run Special Fighter, yes, Special Fighter despite having only 23 speed, because your weapon will allow you to get a follow-up if you have 5 more def than the enemy. And then when you can run as a seal is Quick Riposte, which means you'll be able to get a follow-up on both player phase and enemy phase, and Special Fighter will assure you that you hit Aether as quick as you can, while also shutting down enemy special. It covers basically every basis. It's a very, very good effect. And another thing you can do is run something similar to, oh I don't know, Legendary Marth. Not Legendary Marth, Christmas Marth, my bad. Christmas Marth has a B skill that allows you to effectively shut down any skill that prevents your follow-up. I don't know if it does include no follow-up, but if it does, it would make it quite a strong skill for each Mur. Another thing to keep in mind is that it slaps Desperation on you. In other words, in your case, if you run something like Heavy Blade, you can just run Heavy Blade Noontime with this, or Heavy Blade Moonbow if you want to have more damage. Noontime is just to get a bit more of recovery, because since it doesn't heal you like a ton, you'd basically be able to just keep your HP high without your HP going too low over time. And because of your weapon, you already get the follow-up. And you get Desperation. And basically, Desperation with this effect would actually work. So yeah, you actually have synergy with fighter skills, which makes, you know, that weapon actually a good one. And Zephiel has no pref. On the other hand, you have Idun, and Idun, I don't think I'm going to try to sound like a broken record, because at the end of the day, I think people already know my stance even as far as Brunia is concerned and how good her weapon is. So most of what I can say to Brunia applies here. This pref is really good. It basically gives a 4 across the board very easily, and in Idun's case, getting hit by Chill Def, Chill Res, and Chill Attack is super easy, because her stat line is just so good. In other words, getting a debuff on you is a joke, as far as anything PvP related. That is interesting, because at the end of the day, if you're comparing Zephiel's stat to hers, you'd basically go, well, she only has better attack, and that's kinda it. But once you realize that her pref gives 4 across the board and 3 def is added to the weapon, you just kinda realize a few things. Namely, the fact that she ends up with 1 more attack. The fact that she ends up with 11 more speed. In fact, her weapon, if you get speed plus, can actually work with Special Fighter, which is no slouch because it actually means whether or not you can actually use so many specials. On top of this, you end up with 5 more def, actually 8 more def because of the prefs plus 3 def, and 2 more res. You effectively beat Zephiel at every stat, while also shutting down every debuff, which in this case, getting hit by attack, like by Chill Attack, Def, and Res, is very consistent as well, but he has no way to deal with this. Idun does. The only thing Zephiel really has, as far as an armored red unit, is the fact that he's not a dragon. And if that's all you've got, I'm sorry, there's no point in investing in you. Kind of a shame, because the alt is pretty cute, and at the same time it's a cool little reference to the fucks that he gives to Guinevere in FE7. But as far as the unit goes, there's just better. I would sooner build base Zephiel over this one, because base Zephiel is extremely cheap. If you have kept every single copy of base Zephiel, it costs you like 1.3k Grail, maybe even only 1,000. It is cheap. And this, on the other hand, is about 2,200 orbs for something that's just done better by something that you'd spend roughly the same, if not less. Especially with Idun getting a banner this very month because of a BHB that she's in. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, moving on to the second worst, which is Nino. Oh boy, Nino. What the hell is all of this? A lot of people thought that she was going to have no speed, and I was just flat out denying that. But this kit is so nonsensical, it's beautiful in so many ways. So they decided to give Bolt Fighter to a 41 speed unit. What? They decided to give Attack Speed Form 3 to a 41 speed unit. Again, what? This unit can hit so easily like 50 plus speed. Why? But even then, it's kind of falling in the category of having too much speed. It's kind of funny, because it feels like Ayas actually watch my content sometimes. The very last year, for those who are curious about last year's banner review, I basically said this. Well, yeah, this is a banner, because as far as Christmas was concerned, every unit were just min-maxed with no speed. I was just saying how it's very boring to make a banner out of this, because there's not much you can do with those. I said this again with the Halloween banner, and those banners in general just don't really have a whole lot to work with. If everyone is too slow to work with, then what's the point, right? If an armored unit cannot use Special Fighter in this day and age, it's typically not worth picking up. And now we have the other problem, which is the fact that they decide to just slap as much speed as possible on them. This banner has the fastest tome user of the game, the fastest bow unit of the game, and the fastest dragon of the game. Let that sink in. But that's kind of another problem. In Sophis' case, it's not a problem, because she's a trainee, right? But in Marth and Nino's case, you're sacrificing very important point. To a point where you're kind of just wasting those points, you know? Nino really falls in that category. Meme set aside, I don't think she is too great. That tome can be fairly decent with close counter users, but I don't see Nino herself being a good user of it. She does have a Death Super Boon, but even then, it's very iffy. So, another thing that most tome users tend to use is an Owl tome. I'm going to guess as far as player face tome will go, it's going to be Blade tome. See, here's the problem, right? Let's just go to the comparison so you have a better image. This right here is Nino versus L.A. Lin. L.A. Lin is a Gen 2 unit that's about a year and a half older. And I'm gonna be honest, what they could have done with Nino is take 6 speed out, split that in 2, give 3 def 3 res to Nino, and Nino would just be a better unit than L.A. Lin. But see, here's the issue, right? I thought at first that Nino would be better than L.A. Lin. Then I decided to build her up at plus 10 and all, and then I kind of realized one thing. She can ploy for shit. That is kind of a problem, because Lyn can actually, in fact, ploy for shit. So, say you can literally just say run attack and res ploy, and as a result you end up with 36 attack, 32 def, and 39 res, effectively. Which makes you a lot bulkier and a lot more, and actually able to beat Nino in terms of damage. So, as a result, Ellie Lyn just kind of becomes better as long as she ploys the enemy, which is very easy because that's kind of the playstyle of tanks to begin with. So, as a result, not only is she behind in bulk, because even if you go Def Plus, which is what you should go if you want to make her a Alto, you're behind by 1 Def, you're behind by 3 res. You have 3 more HP, 5 more speed, and 4 more attack. The problem is that the 5 more speed becomes irrelevant at high merges. On low merges, I do think Nino can be decent, but even as an Alto, I don't know if I would really invest in her. I'd rather sooner invest in Lyn, wait for steady posture, well, I guess you can just use steady posture, or speed def bond and use an Alto set with her, if the speed is very much a requirement. I do think Lyn would just be overall a better investment as far as a close counter set is concerned, whereas Nino is just too frail, and while she can do more damage, it really does not matter at the end of the day. If you can do damage, that's great, but if you die way quicker, that's not great, you know? And as I said, I kind of just checked the build and compared them together. On high investment, I do think Ellie Lyn is just overall better. The ploy utility just adds so much more utility that Nino will never be able to get. Sure, Nino is quick, but if all you have is speed, then you kind of run into this problem where your other stats are suffering too much to really make a decent dent with it. Which again is a shame, because all they had to do was to remove 6 speed, give 3 def, give 3 res, and the issue would have been actually better in every way. And of course, still keep the super boon in def, because 25 def should give a super boon. In which case you're only 1 point of def behind, you can ploy just as well as Lyn, you have about the same speed, but it doesn't matter because, as I mentioned, your speed still reached a decent amount anyway. You still have more attack and you still have more HP, so overall you'd just be a better Ellie Lyn, right? But oh well. The way it is, if you have Ellie Lyn and you have invested in her, Nino's completely useless. If you're going to be pulling for Nino, pull her just because you like her. Nothing else. Because as far as the unit is concerned, Ellie Lyn still stands supreme as the best blue armored mage. As weird as this is to say, this is the alt Lyn has gotten that has aged the best out of any of them. I'm shocked as you are. It's still the best of her category 2 years later. Now let's start talking about the actual good units of this banner. This banner, honestly, I'm gonna be honest, if it wasn't for the whole Egren issue, which I'm going to address at the end of the banner, at the end of the banner review. But that was something that was mostly on my mind. If it wasn't out of that, I would say this banner is probably one of the best seasonal banner we've got in ages. Everyone is from a different game, more or less. Like, of course, Young Zephiel. Zephiel is mostly FE6 to me, but Young Zephiel and Nino are from the same game. Jafar, finally we got an alt for the the 4-fang. It makes me laugh though, because Bisquick actually did not know about the Jafar alt. And I basically quoted him from his interview with Mangs. And I basically said, oh, I quote the quote where he went, oh, I'll come back if there's something about the four fangs. And then I just posed the image of Jafar. Like Christmas Jafar. And his only reaction was like, bro, I'm reinstalling! Like, stuff like that is why I really like this banner overall. It's all pics of units that did not really have alts, or if they did have alts, you know, deserved a new one. Like Mar, for example. All of his alt are not great anymore. This alt is fantastic. It actually gives him an alt that's worth investing in. So if you really like Marv, there you go. That's great. I'm glad for him. I'm really happy for him. And the other one is Nino. It's mostly here because people ship Nino with Jafar, you know? Since Jafar is 15 years old in FE7, in case you didn't know. Whereas Nino is like 13, 14. There's not that big of a gap in age. Despite the fact that FEH makes Jafar sound like he's 41. Jafar is actually only 15 in this game. But yeah, overall, I really like this banner. It's just filled with characters that I'm so happy to see in. Ellis, not being her own unit, kind of sucks, but at the same time, I'm like, it's better this way in her case. She never was really a fighter. But I will say, while I typically don't like Mayu's art, and it's rare that I actually mention art in general, but I really don't like Mayu's art typically, and I don't think he's a good artist for Marth. Especially this one, he looks so derpy, it's... duh. But Elise looks so good. It makes me want to see what would look like an Elise done by him, like a proper Elise. Anyway, that's enough off topic. Let's talk about the banner itself. So, Ten Grisnir, I think that's how you pronounce it, is... gonna be honest, you'll be dropping that weapon all the time. Yep. Sorry. That weapon is overall not too great. Oh my god, is it not great. So, it's a decent weapon, but effectively what it does is, if you change out of Daring Fighter, it's useless. It gives you one charge every time you attack, in the same manner as a Heavy Blade works, by the way. It's not like Special Fighter, where you attack, 2 charge, get hit, 2 charge. It's you hit, you get 2 charge, you get hit, only 1. It only works if you have a buff, which can be a bit iffy in case of panic. And on top of all of this, it's just... how can I put this? It's more speed. I also want to point out that the whole have 1 more charge when you attack, a slaying bow does the same thing. It's the same problem as Iris Blade from, you know, ages ago with Ragnall, where she kind of just came with Flashing Blade in the weapon. And it's like, okay, but why? Why not just use Slaying Edge and then just proc it twice, you know? Or just be able to instant proc it on enemy phase? What's the point? What's the play here? Especially when there's a skill called Special Fighter that synergizes with this skill so much better, and that's why Sirius, Sophis, has DC Special Fighter. Shocker, right? This weapon is a mess. Getting 3 across the board for a buff is not bad. It makes him a bit bulkier than he looks. But again, just like Nino, I do feel like he has too much speed. Even with a Brave Bow, he has too much speed. And I get it. I know what most people are going to say. But Jay, it gives speed because Fire Emblem gives damage. And I'm just sitting here like, that's adorable, darling. But no. So there's 2 problems with this. First off, Why not Special Fighter? Why not just put Daring Fighter on, say, Nino? Right? Why not? Because if there is a skill here that's used twice in the banner. Attack speed form is both on Marth and on Nino. Why not Special Fighter on 2 units? No one uses Bolt Fighter and Vengeful Fighter anymore. Or they do, but it's a lot more niche, like Bolt Fighter Gale Force and Vengeful on characters like Zephiel. Base Zephiel, I mean. If you take these out of the way, though, it's typically not exactly something people invest in. And that's iffy at best. But yeah. Anyway. Daring Fighter, the entire idea is that you basically get a buff on Marth. Hit, proc, because of Daring Fighter working as a... how can I put this? Desperation of sort. This is basically Desperation, not 3.5, but 3.1. It does nothing to help you. It's basically the threshold is 5% higher, and now skills that would stop your advance, your second hit, are gone. The concept is cool, but the execution is not. You have to realize the amount of skill that this actually affects is so small, it's not even worth mentioning. The main skill that blocks your follow-up that's annoying is Wary Fighter. But they killed Wary Fighter's usage. Because the main thing that made people use Wary Fighter is because of the whole cheerleading thing. So it was a way to actually do damage without killing the enemy. That was why Wary Fighter was used in Arena. And now, there's no reason to do that because you only need to get 1 kill, which is stupid. It still should be 2, not 1, but whatever. So, that's gone. So, when is that useful? Like, against base Mur? I have not seen a base Mur in over a year. Like, it's so niche. And it's not, like, it's basically a bootleg no follow-up. Right? It just stops you from getting your double denied. Why? Like, no follow-up blocks also the enemy's follow-ups. If it did at least that on top of it, Daring Fighter would be a lot better. The way it is right now, it's not worth it. There is so much reason not to use this and not many reason to use this. Let me put it this way. This is meant to be used on a unit with some bit of speed, unless you are something like Halloween Mur, which is a special case, right? There are 2 fighter skill based on armored unit that have a speed stat. Special Fighter and Daring Fighter. In what world would you pick Daring Fighter over Special Fighter? Do you see the problem? That's the problem the skill has, which is why I don't think it's a good skill. But yeah. Still, Marth is a really good unit. His stat line is decent. I do feel like he has too much speed. Ideally, you would want like 3 or 4 speed moved around. And which is why I really am happy for people who like Jafar. He has 37 speed, which is like the perfect number for a ranged unit. Because it allows you to just not have to have the speed refine. Though I feel like you could actually maybe take 1 or 2 points off, but it's not like Mars 4, 5, 6 point that you'd remove. Honestly, even if you were to remove 10 points of speed, it would still be fast enough as far as a 10 Grisnir set. That just goes to show how much speed he has that's just completely irrelevant. Because his weapon gives him 6 speed already. So even if you remove 10 speed, he's still at 37 speed. With a buff, that you're basically at 43 speed. Merges, you're at 47. What? So yeah. Let's talk about builds though. So the set on the left is more so a PvE set. If you're curious about Death Blow versus Life and Death 4, well, there you go. The thing is, Life and Death Blow 4 would score the same. Or not score the same, but it would do the same amount of damage. You'd lose 1 attack per hit, but you'd get 2 more damage from Fire Emblem. From the 7 speed. 7 times 0.3 equals 2.1. So yeah. Overall, it's decent. The main idea behind this set is to use it with dancers. And by the way, if you use flowers, you hit 47 speed. Life and Death 4 is a lot more consistent, however, if you're afraid of speed. For that one encounter, you might need to quad. The idea is that with Special Fighter, you will hit and then proc Fire Emblem always. So you do a ton of damage as a result. Death Smoke is there, so you can actually do more damage. Keep in mind, Threaten Death skill is still the best way to go. We only have Threaten Attack Res and Attack Speed. Once we get Threaten Attack Death 3, or 4, or whatever, then this is probably going to be the best C slot that he can have. Since Threat and Skill are amazing for any Brave Bow users. I'm talking from experience. It's just really, really good. This set, if you use Life and Death 4, can also be used with AoEs. This is something I use with my own Jam Key quite a bit. And Jam Key, by the way, if you want a comparison between Jam Key and Marth, to put it simply, Marth has 1 more point of attack and that's it. Yep. So if you have a plus 10 Jam Key with 10 Dragon Flowers, Marth is kinda not worth it. Unless you want to do a different set than just the Brave Bow set. And even then, yeah, personally I'm not going to invest in him. But it's worth mentioning. Armored Boots is there because at the end of the day, if you always kill on your second hit because of Fire Emblem, and the fact that you have 64 attack behind your Brave Bow, then it doesn't matter. Your HP is just going to stay at 100, you know? 100%. So, as a result, you will keep your movement. And that's quite useful when doing Brave Bow shenanigans. The set on the right is a more AoE focused set. You end up with 72 attack in combat. Keep in mind you can use Artie Bearing instead of Attack Rest 2. And, well, AoEs are quite good with this. I don't think I have to explain why. Again, Threaten Death might also be a better option. It comes down to, basically, it just comes down to preference. And yeah. Special Spiral, with the fact that 10 Grisnir gives you the 1 charge you're needing, means that you can recharge the AoE a lot easier. This is what I mean by how the bow is not really made for Fire Emblem. If I would be using Fire Emblem as a special, I would use Brave Bow Special Fighter. It does the same thing but better. It's basically just remove 10 attack, but you get to use your 2 attack right away, like always, and you can quad if the need arises. That's huge. And AoEs really loves this bow, but at the same time, it's not intended to work that way, is it? But yeah, moving on to the last set, which is obviously a defensive set. He has a Res Super Boon, so if you're going for a def set, this is a good idea. If you still prefer to basically keep the attack stat up because of these sets, you can basically just make up for it by, instead of not using the Res Boon, using Attack Res Bond, which allows you to make your def and res tied while also improving your damage. So you are more consistent in killing. The idea is just to get hit and then proc, right? At the end of the day, the charge that you get from 10 Grisnir, useless. It's only there because it gives you 3 across the board, similar to a to those Altom that were only giving you 3 across the board, but it was giving you full power, even if you only had one person next to you. It's kind of similar to that, but with a bow. It's the same concept, effectively. Except you get an extra 3 speed on top of it, and it's absolutely unneeded because you're already at 54 speed! 57, sorry. But yeah, with this set you end up with 48 def and 47 res, which is definitely not bad, but also allows you to do quite a bit of damage with Fire Emblem. It basically is not exactly a one-shot, but you can basically just kill in 2 hit, if anything. The problem with this is that you're weak to Bolt Fighter, and, you know, that's kind of a problem, but that's kind of it. Personally, I would not build this set. I would definitely go with the Brave Bow set, but, I mean, that's just how I play in general. I'm a lot more of an aggressive playstyle. This bow is not great. Gonna be honest. It's decent, but let's be real. You're better off with a different one. But yeah. Moving on to Sophis. Now, Sophis, I already knew was going to be busted. I literally calced 4 verse stat properly, and the only reason the last stat I calced wasn't proper is because I expected her to have 183 BST, since E1 only got a 4 BST increase from being a trainee. But she gets the whole 6, so she ends up with 185 BST. Which, I mean, yeah. Armored units should have a higher trainee boost than infantry units. I just hope that melee infantry will also only get a trainee boost of +4 from now on. Because the fact of the matter is, if you compare a trainee unit, right, that's an infantry, that's physical, and you give it +6 BST, it ends up at 178 BST. You're basically, with your first merge, you end up with the same BST bin as a Gen 4 armor or Gen 2, Gen 3 trainee armor. That's not okay. I feel like armored units' boon of being you know, a unit with a lot of BST should not be, you know, ignored. It should be how it is. But for some reason, it's not treated that way, and I don't like it. Now, as far as the rest is concerned, this unit is busted. You see, the main issue with using Armored Dragon is the fact that they have 2 weaknesses, and Dragon Killers are goddamn everywhere. She shuts down that. So the only thing that really affects her are Armor Killer. These are a lot less consistently around, because I'm gonna just put it this way, they're not as needed. Armored units are not typically dangerous. This is going to be a bit of a wake-up call to some people, but most armored units are not very good. And most units that are good, people don't actually invest in them. So as a result, you rarely ever come across those armored units that are actually threatening to face. Especially since AR people don't really bring armored units in that mode. You typically only find armored unit in, well, AA. Or just base arena also. And, well, let's put it this way. There's kind of no point, right? There's kind of no point in those modes, but now once you're going to try to do arena, you'll be I'm just going to say you'll probably be wanting that armor killer way more than any other weapon for your bonus unit. Sophis is disgusting. She's basically the second coming of Fallen Corrin, except this time she at least has a color. Thank God for that. But to put it simply, she gets 5 across the board if her HP is over 50%. Which, considering serious and special fighter, is not easy to maintain. So, to put it simply, you see that stat line on the right? Yeah, well, if you just consider the weapon and her over 50% HP, no merge. She ends up with 44 HP, 56 attack, 49 speed, 35 def, and 40 res. This is her stat line. The main thing you can really do to counter this is to run something with Pain Plus to shut down the HP slowly over time, but that's kind of the main thing, really. If you don't have a Pain Plus user, you're kind of in a bad position, because Sophis is going to be a pain in the ass to deal with. The second you attack in her, she heals back. Typically enough that her weapon is back on top, and you'll typically get doubled by her. And she already comes with distant counter. It's just overall a mess, and there's no breakers to counter her either. Dragon Breaker is still not a thing, for whatever reason, and considering how Bull Breaker works, it would not even work on colored dragons. Sophis is going to be extremely dangerous to come across. As far as comparisons are concerned, these are the best comparison you can make. And in case you haven't realized, she's basically a combination of both. Holy hell. Out of these two units combined, the only stat that she's worse off in, okay? The only stat she's worse off in is Def with Amelia. Do you see the problem? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, her weapon pushes her def to 35, and Amelia's weapon pushes her def to 40. But that's it. And Amelia has so much less res, it's not even worth mentioning. The main issue Felicia has had was the fact that her attack was trash. Though her weapon could fix that somewhat, Sophis basically does not have to do any check with her res compared to the enemy's res. So, to put it simply, it's effectively Felicia with 10 more attack. Consistently. That's insane. Sophis, even without a weapon in mind, completely denies Felicia any point. She beats her in everything. And what she doesn't beat, she ties in. And she has a better pref, and she has a special to heal herself back up. Two things that Felicia does not have. Or rather, Felicia has a pref, but it's a pref that's a lot more shaky than Felicia's pref. And Amelia, while decent, and honestly, if you ever had plus 10, investing in a Sophis is kind of iffy. I mean, if I were to pull for one or the other, I would definitely pull for Sophis, because Sophis just has so much going for her. Amelia has a better pref overall. Well, not better pref to Sophis, but she has a good pref in the sense that it has cooldown -1, so you can run so many more specials. Whereas Sophis is kind of locked with her special, but it's the same logic of Ira versus, say, I don't know, Carla. Like, yeah, Carla gets to use a lot more specials, but the fact of the matter is, if she'd have access to Ragnalastra, she would never use anything else than Ragnalastra. Why? Because there's no reason to. It's just that simple. Ragnalastra is just too good of a special to switch for a different one. So yeah. Overall, what I would say is that Sophis is our new best armored unit, as far as this game is concerned. And, well, I'm gonna be honest, kind of prefer that to a lot of other unit. Sophis is at least a decent character in her own game. But yeah, the only unit that's kind of comparable is Fallen Tiki. But Fallen Tiki, well, first off, her weapon is just DC, right? Which means you typically run Fortress Def Res in her A slot. Here, you basically reverse the reverse the role. You have DC in your A slot, and your weapon is what gives you the stats. 5 across the board versus 6 def, 6 res. I'll take the former. That said, 6 def, 6 res makes it easier to tank AoEs. But Sophists kinda have more base res to make up for it, so what's the point, right? At the end of the day, there's nothing Fallen Tiki does better than this. Getting rid of your weakness is more important than having an effective weapon. That's the way I see it. Especially in AR, like, you don't find dragons in AR all that much. The only one you'll see are typically Duma, and that's kinda it. Because I name a season. That's just kinda it. Dragons are not exactly used a whole bunch. So having Dragon Killer is not great, while having Anti-Dragon Killer is way more relevant. So yeah. Overall, a really good alt. As far as builds are concerned, well, this is a bit basic, but I'm gonna just put it this way. There's no reason to just go for anything different. The weapon is too good to switch. The special is too good to switch. Distant counter is kinda required to work with the weapon. Special fighter allows you to make Sirius a lot more consistent, and using any other special would be kinda silly, considering you have the speed to double anyway. So you're kind of just limited in your seal and, you know, C skill as a result. And the C skill can be a March skill or Attack Floy. That's kind of it, because Attack Floy allows you to push your bolt further. And Attack Def Bond is just to make up for the fact that you lose some def. Def Res Bond would be kind of pointless. Speed Def Bond would be worthless. You already have 59 speed with this set, which is, again, going to be a problem when people will have to try to deal with her. It's, as far as dealing with Sophists, it's basically going to be this. You either one-shot her, or you're in big trouble. That's it. There's just no in-between. If you don't one-shot her, you die, typically. So invest in your bar trays, I guess, because my boy, you're going to be needing those. But yeah, with this set, she ends up hitting 75 attack, 59 speed. Keep in mind that after she gets hit once, she procs Sirius right away. Typically, she's going to be just one-shotting people for 50 damage, and considering the bulk that this set gives, which is 50 def, 50 res, and if Attack Floy procs 55 def, 55 res, healing the, say, 10-15 damage you might take from 70 attack units is not hard to imagine. Hell, dealing with Bolt Fighter is not even dangerous, because at the end of the day, you'll just basically take a hit, heal back, take a hit, heal back. It's ridiculous. This unit is really hard to deal with in general. The only thing she has is the fact that she has a color and the fact that she's weak to armored units. Still more balanced than Fallen Corrin, might I add, but not by a whole lot. This unit is actually very strong. But yeah, there's just really not much to say about Sophis in general, right? She just kind of come with what she has and basically comes pre-built. In conclusion, this banner is mediocre on one side and really good in the other. Marth and Sophis are really good. Marth's weapon is bleh, but the rest is pretty good. And Nino and Zephiel are, well, young Zephiel was a surprise. I thought this was Siegbert. But no, it was Zephiel. That took me... That shocked me. I'll just say that much. But the fact of the matter is Zephiel and Nino are not too great. And in case you did not realize when I did the comparison for Zephiel, I did not use infantry units. Because Summer Hellbindi, you know, may give him a run for his money. Because of the fact that he has so many synergetic skill that he can use that Zephiel can do. And Avel, if she gets demoted, just it's gonna be really hard to have a reason to invest in a red unit. Other than Evil. I'll just say that. As for the other thing that I wanted to talk about, which is the Egren weapon. So I finally got my answer, and most people kind of saw the answer, because, you know, they kind of ended up making it go public. Effectively, I suppose I'm the reason why they decided to actually, you know, fix the weapon, and they basically came to me with the consensus. The only issue I have with it is that the goddamn description makes no sense. I don't know what they even want to say with the attacker as priority. You can read it like 3 times and come up with a different, you know, result every time. I know that's what happened to me. The first time I thought it was something completely different. Second time I'm like, or is it just that? Third time I'm like, what? Most people are just very confused to what it does, so I'm just going to wing it and say that it's only if the units are comparing speed in combat between weapons. In other words, if they're comparing anything that compares stats in combat, it's going to prioritize the one that has that's attacking. In other words, the one that's attacking gets his effect to go out first, right? And so as a result, it might make the other person fail their check too. And that's the main thing, right? But if I'm still unsure, I'm going to ask specification to the inquiries, and we'll go from here. But she's looking to get a huge and substantial buff from this, which is... Damn, I might actually invest in her now. My plus 3 grand might not have been a waste. Gotta say, I'm happy. I'm glad that Egren might actually, you know, work now. But, yeah. At least this Christmas banner was not as boring as last year. Damn. But I can't wait for new heroes banners. Because I'm gonna be honest, while the Threika banner was kind of a flop because they did not want to give them a shot, basically, I will say that everyone else, every other banner we've got for the past 3 or 4 months are some of the best banners I've seen. FE6 getting what they want, FE8 getting what they want, like, it's nice. FE3 getting what they want. It's still waiting for Samson, but I mean, you know, it's a nice change. It's definitely a character that people want that are getting in the game, which I could not be happier for. But with that said, I think I'm gonna call it a video here. As per usual, I hope you guys have a nice one. Oh, and for Jafar, don't hold your breath, but it might be coming tomorrow. Tomorrow is basically my last school day. After that, I'm in vacation, so I'll be able to just work on video a lot more. I'll be working on the Jafar video afterward, but I don't know when I'll be coming back home. Potentially it will be at 10 PM, in which case, working on a video can be a bit harsh. That said, if it's not the case, well, I might be able to work on the Jafar video after all. Only time will tell, just don't hold your breath, it might just be coming a day later as a result. All I'll say is that for those who actually are curious about the short of it, I do think Jafar is good. In fact, he's at least S tier. So yeah, moving on. Have a nice one, everyone. I'll see you all tomorrow or the day after. Have a good one.